The screen wouldn't stop moving. Lines of text flickered too fast to read, scrolling upward in sickly green against the black background. Usernames appeared and disappeared, each one worse than the last. Strings of numbers that looked like coordinates. Words in dead languages. Icons that weren't letters but jagged shapes, like something carved with a trembling hand. I couldn't follow the conversations. No one could, but somehow, they could follow me. The second I joined, the chat room froze. All the chaos, all the chatter, stopped like someone had yanked a plug. And then, one by one, the usernames began to shift. Every line of text, dozens, then hundreds, flickered until the screen filled with the same handle I'd chosen when I logged in. My name repeated again and again, glowing, pulsing like a heartbeat. Welcome, my name, my breath hitched. It wasn't just text on a screen, it knew me. I tried typing something, anything, just to prove this was some sick prank. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, trembling. Before I could hit enter, a new message appeared. Not from me, from admin. We've been waiting. A file dropped into the chat window automatically. No request, no confirmation, just there. Waiting for me to click? I told myself not to. Told myself to shut the laptop, unplug the Wi-Fi, and walk away. But the file name was my home address. Letter for letter, street number, apartment, and the timestamp on it. Now when I clicked, because of course I clicked, the screen filled with images, grainy, distorted, but clear enough to make my stomach turn. Pictures of my street, my building, my front door. The last picture was me, taken from behind, sitting at my desk. Right then, right there, I spun in my chair, hard jackhammering. Nothing, no one, just the shadows of my apartment staring back. But when I turned back to the screen, the chat had exploded with laughter. Not typed LOLs, not emojis, actual audio. Cracked digital cackles spilling from my speakers. Too many voices, too close, too wrong. I slammed the volume down. The voices kept laughing, muffled like they'd moved into the walls. One username rose above the others. It typed slowly, deliberately. Do you understand what you joined? I wanted to say no. I wanted to say I was done, that I hadn't signed up for this, that I wasn't supposed to be here. But the cursor blinked in front of me, daring me to respond. Before I could, another file appeared. A video this time. My mouse moved on its own, gliding across the pad, clicking before I could stop it. The screen went black. Then a feed flickered on, dim, stuttering, filmed on something cheap. A room, white walls, a chair bolted to the floor, and someone in it. Their head hung forward, face hidden by a burlap sack. Their chest rose and fell with shallow, panicked breaths. As I watched, the camera zoomed in, jerking like a hand pulling the lens closer. The sack twitched. The person inside it lifted their head just slightly, and I realized I recognized the shirt they were wearing. It was mine. I ripped the laptop shut so hard the plastic creaked. Darkness swallowed the room. Silence pressed against my ears, but in that silence, the sound of keys clattering filled the air, like someone else was still typing. And in the glow of the laptop's charging light, I saw my reflection in the black screen, smiling back at me. People always ask the same question when they hear about the dark web. Why would you ever go there? The truth is, I didn't stumble into it by accident. I went looking, not because I was brave, not because I was stupid, because I was curious. It started with a forum, just some sketchy corner of the internet I used to lurk on when I was bored. Threads about conspiracy theories, abandoned websites, weird files people claim to have dug up from the depths of the net. 99% of it was garbage. Clickbait, hoaxes, creepypasta dressed up as true stories. But one night I saw a post that was different. The title was simple: The Chat Room That Talks Back. The body of the post wasn't long. No screenshots, no proof. Just a warning: don't join unless you're ready to be seen. It doesn't log you in, you log into it. Beneath that was a string of characters. A Tor link I should have scrolled past. I should have laughed, closed the tab, and moved on with my life. But the comments underneath weren't trolling. They weren't calling it fake. They were begging for another invite. Some said they'd found it once and lost it. Others swore it had followed them for days afterward. The one that hooked me said this: "It knows things you never typed. It shows you things you never told anyone. And once it does, you can't leave." That should have been the red flag. That should have been the sign to slam my laptop shut. Instead, I copied the link. It wasn't easy to get there. The dark web isn't a magic portal you just click into. You need the right tools, the right browser, the right mindset. And I had all of that. I dabbled before, pirated books, old forums, the kind of edgy digital ruins most people avoid. Nothing serious, nothing dangerous, but this felt different. The link didn't take me to a page. It took me to a process. The screen went black. White text filled it line by line. No logos, no buttons, no loading bars. Just commands, enter key. I thought it wanted my keyboard input, so I pressed enter. The text flickered, not that key. I froze. My heart skipped. Another line appeared. Your key. I didn't know what that meant. A password? Phrase? A puzzle? I sat there for a full minute, sweating, trying to think of what to type. And then I realized the screen was typing for me, letter by letter. It entered something I hadn't written. The site accepted it instantly. The black screen dissolved into green. The chat window unfurling like code in a bad hacker movie. Rows of usernames scrolled past. The chat was alive, buzzing, endless. And right in the middle, highlighted like it had been waiting, was my own handle. I hadn't picked one. I hadn't typed one. It just knew. At first, it looked like chaos. People, or whatever they were, arguing in dead tongues, sharing strings of numbers that looked like IP addresses, except far too long, posting images that were gone before I could click them. Little gray boxes that pulsed like open wounds. The air in my apartment felt heavier. My laptop fan whined. The cursor blinked at me like an impatient eye. That was when the first direct message appeared. From admin. You made it. 3 words. Harmless if you didn't know better. But the timing, the precision, the certainty, it felt like a hand closing around my throat. I should have unplugged everything right then. But curiosity is poison. It makes you believe you're still safe because you're on your side of the screen. So I typed back, "What is this place?" The reply came instantly. "The last chat you'll ever need." And just like that, I was in. Looking back, I think that's the moment everything shifted. The point of no return. The chat room wasn't a random forum. It wasn't some edgy roleplay space or ARG puzzle. It was a mirror. And the longer you looked at it, the more it looked back. If you're reading this thinking you'd never be dumb enough to click that link, don't be so sure. I told myself the same thing 100 times before I did it. But late at night, when the world is quiet and you're restless, curiosity makes you reckless. It makes you think you can handle things you can't. And the truth is, some doors opened from both sides. That's what the chat room was, a door, and I just stepped through. At first, I tried to convince myself it was just another weird corner of the internet. Yes, the usernames looked wrong. Yes, the messages flickered in and out like they were alive. But maybe it was all performance art. Maybe someone had coded this to mess with people like me. Curious idiots chasing after forbidden links. That lie lasted maybe 5 minutes. The chat was hungry. Every time I scrolled, new lines of text appeared, and I swear some of them were answering thoughts I hadn't typed. I'd think about leaving and 3 usernames would light up at once. Don't go, stay, we're not done. When I tried to type something simple, hi, who is this? The letters on the screen didn't match the keys I pressed. They rearranged themselves, spelling out, you know us. My stomach twisted. My finger hovered over the power button. That's when the first ping sounded. Not the site's notification. Not Discord. Not Messenger. It was the exact tone my phone makes when I get a text. And it was coming from the laptop speakers. The message appeared in the chat window from a user called Reflector. Check your pocket, I froze. Slowly, I reached into my hoodie. My phone was there, warm against my palm. I pulled it out, half expecting the screen to be shattered. One unread text. No number. Just a blank field where the contact should have been. The message said, check your screen. My throat went dry. I turned back to the laptop. The chat had gone silent again. Every username vanished except one, Reflector. Its words appeared slowly. One line at a time. Tell them your name, I didn't type. The line repeated, tell them your name. The letters stretched, bold, filling the screen. The cursor blinked in time with my heartbeat. I told myself not to do it. Don't feed the troll. Don't give them anything. But my fingers moved on their own. I watched in horror as they typed out my full name, letter by letter, and hit enter. I didn't even feel the keys. The second I hit send, the room came alive again. Usernames flooded the window, hundreds of them, all chanting my name. The letters stretched, warped, forming patterns I couldn't follow. I felt dizzy watching them spiral upward like I was falling into the text. And then, the images started, not files, not links, images that bled into the chat. The black background bubbled, warped, and suddenly there were pictures where words should have been. The first one was my school photo from 8th grade. The second was me standing outside my old house. The third was me, right there at my desk, live. The webcam light glowing though I hadn't turned it on. I slapped the camera with my hand, heart racing. When I looked back at the screen, the chat was filled with laughing emojis. Hundreds, thousands. Except these weren't emojis I'd ever seen before. Each one was a face, my face, distorted into frozen grins. Another username rose above the chaos, the same one from before. It typed one word, test. The rest of the chat went silent. Waiting, I typed back, hands shaking. What do you want? The reply came instantly. Follow directions. A file dropped into the chat. This time it wasn't photos, wasn't video. It was a plain text file, the title Level 1. My gut told me to close everything. Delete Tor, smash the laptop. But curiosity, that poison, kept me there. I opened the file. It was short. Just a single line. Stand up and look out your window. Every hair on my body stood on end. I don't live on the ground floor. My window overlooks the parking lot. At that hour, it should have been empty. But when I stood and pulled back the curtain, I saw them, 3 people. hooded, standing shoulder to shoulder, staring up at my window. I stumbled back so hard I nearly tripped over my chair. My pulse thundered in my ears. I looked again. They were gone. When I turned back to the laptop, the chat was alive again. Good, level 1 complete, he's ready. I slammed the lid shut. Panic clawing at my chest, but I could still hear it. Typing. The sound of keys clattering. Faster and faster, filling the air like a swarm of insects. I pressed my hands over my ears. Didn't help, because the sound wasn't coming from the laptop anymore. It was coming from behind me. I spun hard in my throat. The room was empty. The shadows stretched long across the walls, twitching in ways they shouldn't. I forced myself back to the desk. My hands shook as I cracked the laptop open again. The chat had gone still. Only one message remained, pinned at the top, from admin. Welcome to the game. I don't remember deciding to keep playing. That's the worst part. When I saw the pinned message, welcome to the game, I should have shut everything down. Burned the laptop, crushed the hard drive, moved across the country. But I didn't. Instead, I stared at those words until the cursor blinked like a heartbeat, waiting. And when the next file dropped, labeled level 2, I clicked it, like I was supposed to. The file was longer this time. Choose someone from your contacts. Send them this message, I can see you. Wait for their reply. I sat frozen, reading it over and over. No, not happening. That was the line. I wasn't about to drag anyone else into this nightmare. But the chat exploded before I could close it. Usernames flashing, lines overlapping. Do it test, don't make us choose. That last one made me stop breathing. Choose? My screen flickered. For half a second, my contact list appeared. Every phone number, every email, every social profile I'd ever saved. And then the file reappeared, waiting for me to obey. I thought about picking someone random, some spam number, maybe a dead account. But before I could, the chat filled with one single name. Mom. My blood went cold. Leave her out of this, I whispered at the screen. The reply was instant. Test begins in 60 seconds. A timer appeared, counting down. My heart jackhammered against my ribs. My hands hovered over the keyboard, frozen in place. I didn't want to do it. But when the timer hit 15 seconds, my phone buzzed. A new text. From Mom, honey. Are you okay? I just got a weird call. Someone whispered your name. I swear my vision tunneled. My mouth went dry. The chat lit up with laughing emojis again, all twisted into my face. The file's text blinked at me, bold and unrelenting. Send the message, I gave in. My thumb shook as I typed the words, I can see you. I hit send before I could think about it. Seconds later, the reply came. What? I stared at it, tears blurring my vision. The chat went silent. Then after a long pause, level 2 complete. I slammed my phone down, chest heaving. This isn't a game, I hissed. But the chat was already alive again. Another file appeared. Level 3, this one was shorter. Just 4 words, turn off the lights. I froze. Slowly, I looked around my apartment. The overhead bulb flickered faintly, buzzing against the ceiling. My desk lamp glowed soft against the wall. It was such a simple request. Too simple, I told myself it was harmless. Just another way to scare me. So I reached over and flicked the switch. Darkness swallowed the room. For a second, there was nothing but silence. My breathing, my heartbeat, and then tap, 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 knuckles rapping on glass. I jerked my head toward the window. The curtains were drawn, but the sound came again. Slow, deliberate, tap, tap, tap. I didn't move, didn't breathe. The chat window glowed faintly in the dark. New words scrolled across the screen. Good. He listens. He's ready for more. Another username appeared. Ask him the question. The chat fell silent. A new line appeared. From admin, do you want to keep playing? I stared at the words until my vision blurred. My mouth formed the only answer that made sense. No, but somehow. My fingers typed yes. I didn't even feel them move. The reply was immediate. Good. Level 4 unlocked. Another file appeared, and my stomach dropped at the title. Dead inside was a name, not mine. Not Mom's, it was my best friend's. The instructions were simple. Send them a photo. Use the camera. Now. I looked down at my phone, my reflection in the black screen staring back at me. My thumb hovered over the camera app. I didn't want to see what would happen if I refused. So I lifted the phone, framed my own terrified face, snapped the photo. Should have saved to my gallery. But when I checked, the photo wasn't there. Instead, a new image filled the chat window. Not me, my friend, standing in their bedroom, looking straight into the lens, their expression blank, eyes too wide. And in the background behind them, someone else, a tall figure in a hood. Smiling, the chat erupted in cheers. Hundreds of usernames chanting my friend's name over and over. I sat frozen, bile rising in my throat. The file closed itself. The chat went silent again. Then admin posted one last line. He's learning fast. Sleep was impossible. Every time I shut my eyes, I saw that photo again. My best friend staring blankly at the camera, the hooded figure grinning in the shadows. It wasn't just an image, it was a promise. I told myself I'd delete the files, wipe the laptop, pretend none of it ever happened. But when I opened the lid again, the chat was already waiting. The words pulsed across the screen like veins filling with blood. Level 5. Reality. This time, there weren't any instructions. Just a single link. I knew better, I knew. But my hand still clicked it. The page that opened was a live stream. Grainy, black and white. With a fisheye lens that warped the room into a funhouse shape. My room. I could see myself sitting at the desk, staring at the laptop. For a second, my brain short-circuited. I turned in a slow circle, searching every corner of the apartment. The walls were bare, the shelves empty. No cameras, nothing. But when I looked back at the screen, the version of me in the live stream tilted its head, out of sync, a fraction of a second slower than me. The chat room erupted with usernames again, all spamming the same phrase. He's caught up now. The mirrors align. Watch closely. The live stream zoomed in on my doppelganger. The camera shouldn't have been able to move. It was fixed, wasn't it? But the view pushed closer, closer, until my double's eyes filled the screen. And then, in a whisper so faint I thought I imagined it, "Keep going." I slammed the laptop shut. This time it didn't matter. The whisper didn't stop. It came from inside the room. I spun toward the corner. Nothing, just the shadows. But the air felt heavier. Thicker, like something unseen was leaning against my skin. My phone buzzed. A new message, no number. Just a blank sender ID, don't quit now. The timestamp read now. That night I dreamed in static the same chat room, the same usernames. But instead of text, they were chanting. 1,000 voices overlapping, humming like machinery. Level 6, level 6, level 6. When I woke, the laptop was already open and waiting. The next file wasn't instructions. It was footage of me sleeping. I shot up from the chair, heart slamming in my chest. How long had they been recording? The video skipped forward, jerking like missing frames in an old VHS tape. One moment, I was tossing in my sheets. The next, there was someone standing over me, tall, hooded. The same figure from my friend's photo. Its face was hidden, but I swear I could feel its grin radiating through the screen. The video ended abruptly, the chat filled with a single word: soon. I told myself this was some sick prank, that hackers had broken into my webcam, that nothing about this was supernatural. But then I noticed something. The hooded figure. It wasn't in my room when the video played, it was in my doorway. Right then, watching me. I don't remember grabbing the baseball bat. Don't remember charging toward the door. When I swung, the wood cracked against the frame. Empty air. The hallway was silent. Empty. But the bat was warm in my hands, like it had just struck something alive. When I turned back, the laptop screen was glowing with new words. You can't hit what isn't there. My throat closed. You can only play. The next file dropped automatically. Level 6, Sacrifice. Inside just one line, something must be lost. The screen blinked, flickered. Then my photo gallery opened. Thousands of images, me, my friends, my family. The cursor moved on its own, scrolling through each one. Then it stopped. On the oldest photo I had of Dad, the cursor hovered, waiting. I screamed at the screen, "Don't you touch that." But the file name changed before my eyes. From dad.jpg to deleted, and the picture vanished. Not just from my phone. From every backup, every account, every memory card, gone. The chat cheered again. Level 6 complete. I collapsed against the desk, shaking. It wasn't just a game anymore. It was rewriting reality, stripping pieces of my life away one level at a time. And the worst part? There were more levels, so many more. I stopped counting the days. Time didn't matter anymore. The game had eaten through every part of my life, chewing holes where memories used to be. I checked my phone for photos of vacations, birthdays, people I loved, and find only emptiness. Blanks where my life should have been. And the worst part? I couldn't remember what was missing until the game deleted it, like my brain was being rewritten along with the files. That's when I knew I wasn't just playing. I was being played. The chat room no longer waited for me to log in. It was always open, glowing faintly even when the laptop was closed. I tried smashing the device once, slamming it against the floor until the plastic cracked. The next morning, it was back on the desk. No scratches, no dents. Green alive, cursor blinking, waiting for me. Level 7, final test. The file was named Choice. I didn't want to open it. Didn't even want to breathe near it. But when I tried to look away, the words burned through my vision, searing the... Try a new file appeared. Final level, exit. Just a single line of text beneath it. Type your own ending. My hands trembled as I crept forward, the bat clattering to the floor. The keys waited. The cursor blinked like a heartbeat. What do you want from me? I whispered. The answer came not as text, but as a voice filling the room, hundreds layered into one. A story. The last one, yours. Something in me snapped. Maybe it was the days of fear, or the smell of static in the air, or the way my reflection's eyes burned like holes. I dropped into the chair, fingers poised above the keyboard. If it wanted a story, I'd give it one. I started typing. Nonsense at first, random words, anything to jam the system. But the screen corrected each line as I wrote, warping my words into a narrative of my own death, my own erasure. My reflection leaned closer, its breath fogging the inside of the screen. No, I muttered. Not like this. I slammed my hands down on the keys. I end the game. The screen flickered violently, green text collapsing into static. The reflection screamed. My scream, its mouth stretching until it split the glass. The shadow recoiled, curling back toward the doorway. For a heartbeat, everything froze. The new text appeared, sharp and blood red. Wrong input. The laptop emitted a low, inhuman hiss. The walls around me flexed like skin, the room folding inward. My reflection straightened. Calm now, eyes glowing faintly. You can't end what you never began. The shadow lunged. I grabbed the bat, swung blindly. It passed through the ink-dark mass, but the sound it made wasn't empty. It was like shattering glass. The laptop flickered again, my reflection cracking like a mirror. Lines of code and symbols spilled from the wound, snaking across the floor. Yes, the voices hissed. Fight, make it stronger. I realized with a sick lurch that every hit, every scream, every moment of terror was feeding it. I wasn't fighting it. I was fueling it. The only way out wasn't to break the game. It was to stop playing. I dropped the bat. Stood up, the shadow paused, inches away. My reflection cocked its head, confused. I'm done, I said quietly. No more levels, the cursor blinked. For the first time, the screen stayed empty. Then leave, the voice murmured. But remember, silence is also a story. The glow dimmed. The shadow receded. My reflection dissolved into static. And then the laptop went dark silence. Not just in the room, but inside my head. For the first time in days, maybe weeks, there were no voices, no countdowns, no files waiting for me to click. The laptop sat dark on the desk, its screen blank, like nothing had ever happened. I should have felt relief, freedom. Instead, the silence pressed heavier than the whispers ever did, because silence meant I was alone with the memory of it. I tried to go back to normal. I really did. I made coffee. I stepped outside. I let the sunlight burn across my skin just to remind myself I was still here. But every sound carried weight now. The hum of my fridge, the buzz of a streetlight, the vibration of my phone. Any one of them could be the game bleeding through. And my phone. I couldn't touch it. Not after what it showed me. Not after what it deleted. I scrolled through my gallery one last time, desperate for proof that I hadn't lost everything. But the holes were still there, faces missing, vacations blank, whole years gone, stripped out like someone had redacted my life. And the worst part, I couldn't even remember what was supposed to be there. That night, I dreamed of the chat room again. Not words, not usernames, just the green glow. A cursor blinking in endless black. Waiting. I woke drenched in sweat, the laptop shut tight across the room. Still dark, still silent. But the feeling didn't fade. It never does. I stopped answering messages. Calls went straight to voicemail. Friends thought I was avoiding them. Maybe spiraling, maybe hiding something. And maybe I was. 'Cause how do you explain this? How do you tell someone a game stole your memories, your life, and handed them back to you in pieces? How do you explain that every story they've ever read online, every creepypasta, every cursed legend might just be another level of the same infection? You don't, you keep it inside. Because saying it out loud spreads it further. I thought about smashing the laptop again, this time burning it. burying it in pieces. But deep down, I knew the truth. It didn't matter what I did to the hardware. The game wasn't inside the device. It was inside me. Every time I think about it, every time I tell myself never again, I feel the weight of that last message. Silence is also a story. And I know the moment I speak, the moment I write, the moment I share, I'll be playing again. For now, the screen is dark. The room is quiet. But sometimes when I'm not looking, I swear I hear it. The faintest tap of keys, a cursor blinking, waiting for me to type the next level.